Kenyans have had enough. Enough of lies, enough of empty promises, enough of kubebo ufala. The same man who was shouting that fuel prices are just poor leadership is now presiding over the highest fuel prices in Kenyan history.
I mean, a straight answer would be, how come that fuel in Uganda is cheaper than fuel in Kenya?
He made it look easy. Just reduce taxes on fuel.
Which taxes would you be proposing to remove from fuel, the cost of fuel?
We need to rethink taxation, VAT taxation on fuel.
And what did he do once he came into office?
Wananchi sasa watalazimika kugharamika zaidi na bei ya mafuta, huku hazina kuu ya kitaifa inapopanga kuongeza ushuru wa bidhaa za petroli kutoka 8% hadi 16%.
Kenyans now demand an apology because there are things that you don't play politics with. And at the top of that list is fuel. For God's sake, fuel controls all aspects of our lives.
People in government have all the time to be on top of vehicles campaigning when other governments and other countries are being prudent enough to address the issue of fuel prices in a manner that is humane.
So, how insensitive can this president be? Let's talk about it. If you love this kind of content, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. Now let's get to the video.
Badala ya viongozi kuwa wanaketi kusema tutasuluhisha namna gani, jameni, tutasaidiana namna gani, wengine wanaenda huko kuinsight wananchi. Angalia hii bei imepanda, uliza Uhuru. Yani mimi Uhuru niko Ukraine, mimi ninafanya nini huko?
Let us rewind. Back in 2022, during the peak of the Russia-Ukraine war, fuel prices in Kenya shot up. Petrol went from 159 to 170 per liter.
Badala ya kuja kunisaidia, kuniambia niko na mawaidha hii na njia hii na njia hii, njia ambaye tunaweza tuokoe watu yetu wakati tunagojea mambo haya yaishe, wewe huko kwa soko na matusi.
Back then, he was the deputy president. He didn't hold back. He said,
mafuta ndio hiyo imepanda bei. Sini namna hiyo. Sasa badala ya watu kushughulikia mafuta, wanaanza mambo ya fitina ati wananipangia. Sasa mnanipangia nini? Pangieni mafuta kwanza iteremke chini.
He mocked Uhuru Kenyatta for blaming external factors. He told Kenyans a serious government would actually fix this.
We should address ourselves to the crisis that is there in the country and the monopolies that have taken our fuel and economic sector captive. Ile cartel ya ufisadi iko pale ndio inasababisha bei ya mafuta hapa Kenya kuzidi bei ya mafuta Uganda. Na hiyo mafuta inapitia Kenya ikienda Uganda.
He promised to deal with cartels and he promised to reduce fuel prices. And Kenyans believed him.
William Samoei Ruto.
He became president and everything changed. Let us break it down. His first move was actually to remove fuel subsidies, the same tool that Uhuru was using to keep the fuel prices considerably low.
Fuel prices have risen once again in Kenya. Kenyans can't look away. The record cost of fuel is all over the news. The energy regulator said late on Wednesday that it had removed the subsidy for super petrol while retaining a smaller subsidy for diesel and kerosene.
Then what happened? VAT on fuel actually increased from 8% to 16%.
Wananchi sasa watalazimika kugharamika zaidi na bei ya mafuta, huku hazina kuu ya kitaifa inapopanga kuongeza ushuru wa bidhaa za petroli kutoka 8% hadi 16%.
And a new fuel levy was actually introduced. More pressure on the same wananchi that he promised relief.
The price of petrol and diesel is expected to rise by 7 shillings in the coming days should the government go on with the plan to increase the road maintenance levy from 18 shillings to 25 shillings.
Now, fast forward to today, new prices say that petrol is at 206, diesel is at 206.
For the next 1 month, super petrol, the price of super petrol has increased by 28 shillings and 69 cents. And the price of diesel increasing by 40 shillings and 30 cents a litre.
Let that sink in. You see, these are higher than anything that we saw under Uhuru Kenyatta not even Uhuru Kenyatta. That is the highest that fuel has ever been, ever since the independence of this country.
Patriotic Kenyans, today we wish to draw the attention of Kenyans to one of the greatest fuel scandals in the history of independent Kenya.
So here is the uncomfortable truth. The same man who was saying that the problem is not international, it is local, is now blaming Middle East tensions, global oil supply shocks, including instability around routes like Strait of Hormuz.
Nataka niwaeleze, duniani hii iko na matatizo mengi. Tuko na shida kubwa ya mambo ya Middle East. Tumekuwa na matatizo ya vita kule. Mambo ya mafuta imepanda kila sehemu.
Does that sound familiar? Because that is exactly what Uhuru Kenyatta said in 2022.
Angalia hii bei imepanda, uliza Uhuru. Yani mimi Uhuru niko Ukraine, mimi ninafanya nini huko?
But back then, Ruto called it excuses.
That kind of explanation is escapist and has no basis whatsoever.
Today, he's calling it is our reality.
Nataka niwaeleze, duniani hii iko na matatizo mengi.
And what makes me very sad is that this is not just about fuel. This affects every single thing. Transport costs, food prices, rent, business operations. When fuel rises, the entire economy suffers. And Kenyans are feeling it.
Machaji na manyonyo is, people are really struggling. Zile madie mnapata manze, Malcolm Sadina pesa ya rent, pesa ya hii. I mean, I can't see na manze.
Every promise that was made in 2022 is now colliding with reality.
The best way to know you are an idiot, a certified idiot, is to believe what Ruto and his government is saying. So, the increase in fuel prices is because of Iran-US war. We blame them. Not because of what you saw with your own eyes. 2 weeks ago, Kenya Pipeline Company, we had the biggest scandal ever. Over 12 billion. 12 billion. Watu wakashiko, pesa zilikuwa zinatolewa kwa nyumba. But you can't think that the increase in prices is to compensate hiyo 12 billion waliiba, pesa zilikuwa zinatolewa kwa nyumba. Lakini sasa hiyo mambo yana hiyo 12 billion scandal sasa imeisha hivyo kwa sababu mafuta imeongezwa. Sasa Wakenya they are happy. Waende watoe pesa kwa mifuko yao waongeze. You people. Nimekwambia ukijiangalia kwa kioo na uone like you have a way of supporting Ruto, just know that's how an idiot look like.
Now, Kenyans are asking, was it ignorance or was it playing politics with things that we shouldn't be playing politics with? Because you cannot criticize a crisis, oversimplify it, then fail to fix it when you get power.
What do you think is the solution to the rising cost of fuel, which, as you know, drives the cost of a number of other products?
Look at the taxes, because 50% almost of the cost of fuel in Kenya is taxes.
Wewe unajiita kiongozi na unajiita ati wewe ndio sijui namba ngapi katika nchi ya Kenya. Uko wapi? Badala ya kunisaidia kuondoa hiyo shida, wewe uko kwa soko kusema ulizeni ule.
That is why more people are now saying William Ruto owes Uhuru Kenyatta a public apology, not for politics, but for misleading the entire country, telling us that things would have been better, but just made them worse.
Hii si mambo ya kutuma ujumbe na karatasi. This is a matter that befitted the entire government to talk to Kenyans about what is happening. Na kabla waambia wa Kenya maneno yoyote kuhusu mambo ya Iran, the government must also take responsibility that they have a 50% chance on influencing fuel prices in the pump. Because the pump prices that Kenyans pay, 50% are made up of taxes and levies.
Here's the reality that no politician is going to tell you, that fuel prices is not that simple. Even powerful governments struggle with fuel prices. Look at America.
The average cost for gas right now in the USA so far is over $4 a gallon. That's the average. It's higher in other states.
But the mistake with William Ruto was making Kenyans believe that this was going to be an easy fix and actually telling them how you'll do it, which is reduce taxes on fuel. Then you get into power and you do the exact opposite.
Countries have found a way of working around the fuel crisis occasioned by the Iran-US war. what is the government of Kenya doing for the people of Kenya?
So I leave you with this. If fuel prices were actually easy to fix in 2022, then why are they worse now in 2026? And if the problem was actually never that simple, then why were Kenyans told that it was? Because sometimes the biggest crisis is not actually the economy, it is the politics around it.
We have deliberately taken time to look into the oil scandal that has hit Kenya in the hope that the government of President William Ruto would be kind to the people of Kenya and save them from further agony.
And one final question for you. Do you actually think that there is anything that William Ruto said during his campaign trail that was actually true? Do you actually believe that he intended to make the life of Kenyans easy? Because I find it very hard to believe. Let's talk in the comments below and do not forget to subscribe.